A man brought his steaming first love home to celebrate his daughter's birthday. However, as soon as he walked in, he saw that the house was decorated like a mourning hall for his daughter. But the man thought this was just his wife's jealous tactic. He believed she deliberately set up the mourning hall to scare him. So he went straight up and smashed his daughter's mourning hall. Then he called his wife. He scolded her for not preparing dinner and waiting for him to come home, and for cursing their daughter by setting up a mourning hall to scare him. He demanded that his wife come home immediately to kneel and apologize. In the end, he even happily celebrated the birthday of his scheming first love son in front of his daughter's mourning hall. Little did he know that his biological daughter had really passed away, and it was he who had caused her death. A few days earlier, the man's wife and daughter had been in a serious car accident. The wife begged her husband to save their daughter first, but the husband, who was a doctor, thought their daughter was just being overly dramatic. He believed that such a minor injury could be tolerated for a while longer. He then ran off to save the son of his scheming first love, who only had a minor scratch. He even took him away in the only ambulance at the scene. This caused their daughter to miss the best time for emergency treatment. It wasn't until the second ambulance arrived that the mother and daughter were taken to the hospital. After a diagnosis, the doctor told the woman that the little girl's chest had been pierced by glass. There were still fragments left inside her body. The surgery was extremely risky. Only Dr. could perform this surgery with any hope of saving her. And Mark was the woman's husband. But when she called her husband to ask him to come and perform the surgery on their daughter, he accused her of making a big deal out of nothing. He said it was a waste of resources to have him perform surgery for such a minor injury. He then hung up the phone before the woman could finish speaking. The woman had no choice but to go find her husband in person, but when they met, her husband pulled her aside to draw blood. The woman thought her husband was drawing blood to save their daughter. She told him he could take as much as he needed, but after drawing 10,000 milliliters, the husband left without looking back, taking the blood to the scheming woman. At that moment, a doctor ran over to tell the woman that her daughter was not going to make it. He urged the woman to go see her daughter one last time. The daughter, with her last breath, weakly said she wanted her dad to hold her. The woman hurriedly called her husband, but no one answered on the other end. In the end, the daughter died with regret. The woman held her daughter's body, crying bitterly, but when she was taking her daughter home, she saw her husband embracing the scheming woman. The woman suppressed her inner rage and called her husband again, asking him to come home immediately to see their daughter one last time. The husband still didn't realize the seriousness of the situation. He continued to think his wife was just being jealous over their daughter. He impatiently dismissed her with a few words and hung up the phone. The woman stayed by her daughter's mourning hall all night until dawn, but her husband never returned. She had no choice but to go to the hospital to find her husband again, but she saw her husband tenderly massaging the scheming woman's feet. She remembered how she had once fallen and asked her husband for help, but he impatiently walked away. In the end, she had to endure the severe pain and stand up on her own. At that moment, the woman was completely disappointed in her husband, but remembering that her daughter had still been thinking of her dad before she died, the woman decided to give her husband one last chance. She walked into the hospital room and asked her husband to come home with her to see their daughter one last time. But the husband said the scheming woman was a lonely widow who needed someone to care for her. He told the woman not to act like a shrew and cause trouble there.